Hey everyone, happy Friday and happy future Friday, if you know what that's all about. My name is Peter Burchfield, and welcome to Prepare to Go There. I wanted to start a conversation today to help executive leaders and really those that are on leadership teams at the executive level think through this really important topic of territorial leadership. Um, because I'll tell you the story behind it and then we'll get into the content in a little bit. My wife and I were unloading the groceries and bringing them into our house, and out of nowhere, this big blue jay just swooped in at us. And at first, we were kind of like, "Hey, that was kind of random. Maybe it lost directions and came at us. It was a little disoriented, I guess." Well, then it did it again. I was like, "Oh, whoa! I think this thing's like swooping at us. I think it's coming. I think it's actually aiming at us." And and so I started wondering what's gotten into that bird. Why is it kind of being so unhinged, and it's like feeling like it has to attack us now? And then sure enough, I realized that oh yeah, it's a territorial bird. It's probably nesting. It's probably got some something to protect or some reason to kind of take over its space. And that's when I started having the light bulb moment of, wow, there's probably a lot of situations that go on at the team level that we cannot explain until we connect the dots and see that there is something territorial going on here. And so that's kind of what I wanted to get into, is why we have friction, tension, frustration, maybe even sometimes non-violent aggression, non-physical aggression, and like, where's that coming from? Why, did we cause it? Is it something that we can detect? Is it something we can prevent? How do we work through it? And so there's a lot of just overall awkward scenarios that can hit us in the team environment, particularly when you're a pioneering leader, right? And you want to like make a difference, go the distance. You want to be a leader that inspires people, that pushes the boundaries, that's always growing, that's expanding your capacity. You may not realize that is disruptive. That very attitude, that very approach to expand and grow can be disruptive. And so we need to learn a little bit more of the context around this conversation. And my hope and my goal here is that executive leaders will have hope, that they'll find healing, that they'll stay encouraged, that maybe they'll get a little more language and clarity around some of the situations that they're facing, and that ultimately we can be pioneering leaders that grow really strong, healthy, high-functioning leadership teams. You cannot take team territory with a territorial leader. And I mean that in more of the negative sense, although we'll see how to assess it in a little bit. But first off, let me just say I'm really grateful that you guys are on. This is an important conversation. I've got some content. Let me know in the comments right now, have you ever walked into a situation unaware and you had a blue jay swooping situation of your own? Have you ever felt like you said something that was out of line, or that you triggered someone in a way that was a little uncalled for, and you've experienced some irrational behavior in a team environment where somebody just got, to use the bird metaphor or a pun here, they got their feathers ruffled, or they just got a little too territorial with their department, with their access, their authority, their whatever. And you're kind of at first taken back, right? Because like for us, we were just taking the groceries in. We had no idea this blue jay was going to take it to DEFCON 5 and actually start assailing us, borderline harassing us. Is like, We are clearly no threat to you, Blue Jay. We have nothing to take from you. We don't even have anything to give to you. I mean, are you just going to hold us at point blank until we give you seeds or food or, I mean, water? What do you want here? And really, I think one of the little insights on the outset is it was so just kind of perplexing. It was just like, where is this coming from? And that is the situation I want to speak to for a lot of executive leaders. Maybe you have multiple people that report to you, and you'll feel these unspoken pain points. You'll feel something in the team culture that just, it's not settling, right? You don't have peace about it, and you're wondering, where is this coming from? Or maybe you're really trying to grow a healthy team culture, and you need more team members to grow your capacity to be more productive, to serve more people, to expand your vision. But for whatever reason, it's like, you look over the past few months and it's like, man, we just haven't been able to grow this particular area. What's going on? Do we need to put more money into it? Do we need to level up, with our technology? Maybe we need better tools. Maybe we need a different strategy. And here we go. We're thinking about the situation from a more logical, strategic standpoint, right? Because that's what we do. We roll up our sleeves, we get to work, we know how to lead, how to build. But it's like that Blue Jay. It's like, what on earth has gotten into that thing? Here it comes swooping in on us. And it's like kind of like borderline harassing us. It's like, what do we do to, trigger you? And a lot of leaders, they don't realize that this is actually a dynamic, or this is a factor that's going on in the team culture. So I just want to help create some language to bring this to the surface so you can begin to see it for what it is. You don't have to be intimidated by it, but you can actually lead through it. And it does take some back and forth to communicate, right? You have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn what is the the body language that's going on, what is the unspoken message that's being sent, what is being said outright, what is being said but veiled. And so you need to grow in wisdom and discernment as a leader in order to detect what's going on, because it's good to be territorial in some instances, which we'll see, but it can actually get very combative and counterproductive for your team. And you can go months, if not years, in an area that has been kind of, too hands off, because you're like, oh man, we just don't go there anymore. We just don't even know what's happening in that specific scenario. So you don't even touch that situation anymore. You don't even talk about certain things anymore. You can't even bring up certain issues to make things healthy, because it's like a big question mark there. But this is going to take the question mark away, so you can actually start working towards healing, health, and growth. All right, sounds good. I'm going to say hi to a few folks. I'm so grateful that my wife, Sarah Joy, and Jeff are on chatting. If you want to let me know where you're watching from or what leadership context you're in, I'd be happy to give you a shout out as well. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. That's what this is all about, is being future focused. So Jeff said, I literally just got swooped by a hawk when you said swoop. That's awesome. So this is an important conversation for all of us. And just to add some context to me and what I do, my name is Peter Burchfield, and I'm an executive coach. I focus a lot on executive leadership preparedness. So I want to help you get away from the busyness of being a leader. And I want to make sure that you are leveling up and thinking about the next phase now, because a pioneering leader and an executive leader is more responsible to the future team than they are the present team. Hello, let me say that again. You are more responsible to the future team than you are to the present team. You say, how can you say that? Why can you say that? Because it is our responsibility every day to invest in a future that is more hopeful and that is more bright than the one we have now. And we have a choice every single day. Are we going to be preoccupied with something that's going to come and go, or are we going to keep preparing for something that is going to matter in the future? So I offer executive coaching. I have a course for leaders to help them build a really clear, active life plan and then leverage leadership, not only to be more productive, but to be more balanced in their life, as well as to grow other leaders around them so they can take that new territory in their field. And then I also do a lot of trainings and group coaching sessions throughout the year. So that is me. But let's get into some content and start this conversation. And what I wanted to do is just open my heart with you, if that's okay, and just kind of share some thoughts that have helped me kind of shape and sharpen the way I think about leadership and working through these leadership dynamics, because I'm sure you have many different personalities on your team. And a great leader is not intimidated by leaders that are different than them or stronger in other areas than them. And so what we get to do as leaders is we get to be the referee of the team culture that's showing up in our meetings, that's showing up even in our text threads and in our emails, that's showing up in those large group moments where we're rallying together to accomplish something important and worthwhile. And we have to referee the culture and say, hey, that's out of bounds, or, hey, it's all good, redo, start again. And as we focus on creating a healthy culture for your team, I'm telling you what's going to happen is you're going to get empowered leaders that want to stick around, that believe in what you're doing, and that they are not threatened by being a growing person. Their growth does not threaten anyone on the team. Their empowerment does not threaten anyone else on the team. In fact, everybody else celebrates it. We actually celebrate strength when it's used in service of others. We actually celebrate people growing in their gifts. We actually celebrate people leveling up. We actually celebrate people going further in their own leadership journey, because we know when we're in an environment of harmony that we can actually accomplish more together. And so that is the end game we're kind of moving towards. But when we talk about territory, animals are not the only creatures, kinds of species in our world that can be territorial. Humans are in a different category than the animals, but we still can be territorial. And that's okay, because it really does involve the way we take ownership. So I want to just start with the motive of this kind of territorial thing. It can actually come from a good place, right? If you did not have a sense of ownership, you would not take care of your house. If you did not have a sense of ownership, you would not take care of your health. If you did not have a sense of ownership, you would not love and nurture your family. If you did not have a sense of ownership, you would not want your business to succeed. So having that sense of ownership is really mission critical. In fact, it's biblical, right? God entrusts us with things in our life to grow, to steward, and to multiply. So when we start with this conversation, let's not get so wound up and so uptight that we can't even handle the word, right? It was like, oh yeah, territorial. We're just getting all bent out of shape. We have to see that there is a good place where people show up and they say, man, because I belong here, because I care, because I'm invested, because I want us to win, or at least I want my stuff to win, I'm going to get, worked up if it's somehow attacked. And so that's really important. Territory also speaks about the way you and I show up. Okay. I've said it before in the last stream. Whenever you and I show up in a room, we're either stepping up or we're shrinking back. Man, that's so good. I want you to think about that, because the way you show up matters. And that refers to your sense of territory. Okay. If you feel like you have no territory, then you're going to be sheepish. You're going to feel intimidated. You're going to be fearful. You're going to be anxious, right? Because you feel like you don't belong there. You feel like you don't have a place. You're not empowered, and you don't know what gives you that sense of territory. You don't know how to find your own territory, how to grow your own territory, how to steward and take ownership over your own territory. And so now you are so threatened by anybody who even comes near your person, your personality, your projects, your thing, because everything feels like attack because you didn't know how to leverage your own personal boundaries to define and defend who you are as a person and as a leader. All right. So a lot of this is going to just come down to good old self-leadership. A lot of this is going to come down to don't get so emotional and you got this and you are not being attacked. You have to be willing to defend and take ownership over yourself. So it's your sense of ownership and the way you show up. But what else? What else can we use to start this conversation? There's two reasons that leaders get territorial. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're at the workplace, and for whatever weird reason, the power went off in your building. And so you're looking for somewhere to keep working. You need to have a phone call. You need to, make sure you make that appointment. And so you walk into somebody's office, and it's empty. You say, well, they won't mind. It won't be that big of a deal, right? And then all of a sudden, they walk in and you're right in the middle of that phone conversation and you really don't have the prerogative to hang up. And they just go ballistic. They're like, what are you doing in my office? Get out of here, whatever. No, I'm being a little flamboyant or dramatic with this, a little excessive. But I'm making a point that this shows up in our everyday work lives. And it really shows up if you're a leader. And there's two reasons that we get territorial. One is either people know their territory or they don't. Think about that. The reason we get territorial is either because we know what is in our space of ownership and we say, hey, I am going to take responsibility for this. If you're a husband, you're saying, hey, I'm taking responsibility for my wife and my kids. I want them to be cared for. I want them to succeed. I want them to do well. I want them to make wise choices. Or if you're a leader, you're an executive leader, you say, hey, this is our mission. This is our vision. This is our culture. You can't just come up into this house and break in and start taking stuff and doing stuff, right? There is a healthy sense of territory here. It's okay to be territorial when you are protective, but not when you are invasive or combative. When you have this kind of bloodthirsty desire to reject other people's sense of boundaries and you cross other people's boundaries lines and you start moving into other people's spheres, other people's, can I just make it plain? Other people's departments, other people's teams, other people's areas of influence. And you start crashing in on that because you think you're better than, or you think your cause is more virtuous than. I got to call the line and say, the reason people get territory is either because they know their territory and they have no intention of overpowering other people. When you know you are empowered, you do not try to overpower other people. You don't have to. Some people have to kick and step on people in order to feel like they're on top. But a true, strong person operates with humility and meekness. They don't have to overpower other people to be empowered. So when you know your sense of territory, you're good. You're good. You're like, hey, my life is in order. My finances are in order. My family's in order. My health is in order. My work is in order. I want my team and my team culture to be in order. I have so much to work on. Why would I want to take something that's not mine when I can succeed with the resources and the tools that's inside? See, there's no sense of like weird competition, inferiority, intimidation. There's none of that because that's sideways energy. We have to stay future focused. We have to stay focused on the mission at hand. Now, the other reason that people get territory is what we're really focused on, the topic we're trying to deal with, because so many teams suffer from this unspoken issue, just like that blue jay that was swooping in on my wife and me. It's like, where did that come from? I wasn't even thinking about trying to go take down the blue jay colony or the blue jay nest. I wasn't thinking about attacking a blue jay, and yet the blue jay felt threatened by me. It was like, what did I do to threaten you? I did not do anything. That blue jay just kicked into overdrive on that territorial instinct. So let me know in the comments what happened when you felt attacked for your sense of influence, your sense of ownership in the team. Maybe it was over scheduling. Maybe it was over resources. Maybe it was over, who's going to be driving the project or whatever. And tell me, how did you resolve it? Because this is an unspoken issue, and so many team cultures will suffer from this, and they'll be like, they can go on for months or years and not even know what the root issue is. And it might just be, can I say it? An insecure leader. It might be an insecure leader, because if someone is extra dramatic, if someone is extra territorial, it might be not that they know what their territory is, but that they don't know their own territory. See, if we focused more on our own work, our own time, our own scheduling, our own productivity, our own actions and interactions and reactions, we would not have time to start all these petty fights on the team. We just wouldn't have time for it. Like, if you're really focused on growing your own capacity, if you're really focused on leveling up as a leader that serves and that solves problems, if you're really focused on doing the future work, right? Showing up prepared, where you're preparing and not pretending, where you're not preoccupied with, quote, being a leader, but you're actually preparing to raise up other leaders around you so you can do more than ever. You don't have time to get into all of these fireside spats. You don't have the bandwidth for it. You have to stay future focused. So self-leadership is the mirror that we look at right now. And we say, before I point a finger and say, you are territorial and you are out of line and you don't know what you're talking about and you don't have the place to come into my space and do that. Before we get so emotionally charged, look in the mirror and say, are you taking ownership of your own stuff? For real, are you organized? Are you timely? Are you punctual? Are you a person of your word? Can you follow through? And if you can, then why does it matter? For real, if you are good and if you are doing your work and if you are focused on growing your area, and I'm not just talking about your team or your department first. I mean, literally you as a person. If you are staying healthy and if you are committed to keep going on that leadership journey, why are you getting so worked up? You have a sense of territory. There's a story that I love. It's a life principle from the Bible. I mean, the Bible's the best. And basically, there's these two epic leaders, Jesus and John the Baptizer. And so Jesus comes in and he starts doing ministry. He actually starts helping people and doing his thing in the same area where John the Baptizer is. And John the Baptizer didn't have he didn't have at all the influence as the Lord Jesus, right? And so his team comes up to him and they say, what are we going to do? He's taking our people. He's taking our donor base. What are we going to do? And I think John the Baptizer is just amazing. He had the humility and the clarity to know what his own territory was. And it's just so amazing because he was not threatened by another great leader. And obviously, this is the greatest leader of all. So, I mean, what do you do if you actually get a great leader that joins your team? Are you happy about that or are you threatened by that? I'm not talking about other people yet. We're going to get to that. But we got to start with us. We have to start with me and you and how we feel when great people join our ranks. People that we can't take credit for, people that we didn't, apprentice or mentor, people that just join the team because the work matters. And he says this amazing thing. He says, it's great. I'm happy because they can't take away what heaven gave me. They can't take away from who I am and what I'm here to do. And you have to realize that if you have territory, and I'm talking about what you take ownership of first, but I'm also talking about the way you show up and the way you feel when you show up. When someone is like super paranoid about how they look and how they're coming across and they're kind of just self-absorbed, that can get negative or kind of blown out of proportion. But man, their territory is kind of weird. But when you have someone who's generous, when you have someone who is encouraging, when you have someone who's empowering, man, they show up and they've got so much territory. They've got this wide open space. They welcome people in. They're like, hey, I got so much space for you to come. I have so much space for you to lead. I have so much space in my heart for more people to come and build here and pioneer something here and do something great here. Like, yeah, I've made room in my heart for more great leaders to come and join this work. This is an awesome work here. We need more people, not fewer. But if you're like threatened and you're kind of like, well, this is what I've been doing, for a long time. This is me. And nobody else can do me, and I'm indispensable, and nobody can be better than me, and I know things you don't know, and all this stuff. It's like, well, I don't know how anybody would stay in there. I literally don't know why anyone would want to hang out in a blue jay infested territory when you got all these blue jays swooping in and pecking in and attacking. It's like, man, I'm just trying to take in my groceries. So I'm not trying to be unhinged here. I'm trying to be encouraging and to let you know that you do not have to wait for other people to change before your circumstance changes. Man, come on. You do not have to wait for other people to change. Well, they just need to get in line. They just need to get a better attitude. They just need to, do better. They just need to repent. They just need to quit it. Quit it. Don't even go there because you're already out of your boundaries. You need to stay in your own space and say, how are you doing? Are you leading yourself? Are you full of confidence and competence? Can you operate well in the space that you have? Or are you just so threatened that you're not even focused on your space? You're not even focused on your stuff. You're not even focused on your schedule. I mean, come on, make a weekly plan again. If you're so, bent out of shape because everybody's stopping you from being productive, everyone's stopping you from getting, quote, what's yours. Like, people do things in the name of rights and people do things in the name of wrongs. And I'm telling you, just look at yourself first. Not in a self-absorbed way, but take accountability first. And when you can stand on your own 2 feet and you can be comfortable in your own skin and you can be honestly happy with being in the company of other empowering people, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it in the world, So let's get back to the notes. Let me know if you have any questions. I want to make sure that we can speak to them. So if you feel threatened by a territorial leader, just remember, so do they. If you feel threatened by a territorial leader, just remember, so do they. Because I'm pretty sure one of the reasons that they're probably getting up in arms is because they feel threatened at some level. They feel threatened that maybe their recognition is going unnoticed. Maybe they feel like something's being taken or they don't know what's happening. Most of the time, this territorial thing goes on unspoken. There's a lot of non-verbal communication that happens here. And so it takes humility and maturity for you and I to step up and say, okay, I'm going to have to just kind of read in between the lines. I think they might just be a little insecure about this. And so instead of, matching, trying to see who can, if you go low, I'll go lower. If you go low, I'll go lower. If you go low, I'll go lower. Instead, let's go higher, right? Let's take higher ground. Let's go for the higher way. God's way is the higher way. So let's look for the higher way and let's go above and beyond that instead of being petty. So I want to give you a few other examples. But here is a checklist that I would share with you. Here's what you're going to do, because this can be kind of murky water. You're kind of wading into this situation, and many times we're trying to, as Bob Goff would say, we're looking for the least creepy explanation, right? Like, man, things just aren't really humming right now, or things are feeling kind of out of whack right now, or things are just not fun right now. Like, it's not fun to be on the team right now. What's going on? And so then we're just going to the drawing board, making up all kinds of random theories and conjectures. We're like, well, maybe it's just so funny what we come up with, right? Because we don't know. We don't know what's happening. And then it's like me with that Blue Jay. It's like, why is this Blue Jay coming after me? Because it might be just acting a little territorial. So the first thing we're going to do is assess. We have to assess the motive of the person. You have to assess the root issue that's going on in your context. And like I said, are they being protective? Are they being combative? All right. And then once you assess, then you'll know how to communicate. Now it's time to communicate. And what you're trying to do is make the unspoken things visible, right? The unspoken things that are going on. There's unspoken issues. There's unspoken communication. There's unspoken patterns or tracks here. You're trying to bring that up into the light, because when we're in the light, then things can get dealt with. And so you're trying to communicate. You say, hey, help me understand. That's a great phrase. Help me understand. I'm noticing this. And instead of coming with a finger to point and accuse, you come with your own sense of encouragement and empathy. And you say, hey, I understand, this is important to you. These are your values. And you're trying to find that common ground, find that common language. And you try that route first, right? It's always good to go one-on-one first. It's always good to try and communicate, because that is one of our advantages, right? As people, as humans, we have this God-given ability to communicate. That's amazing. Communication is powerful. Communication can unite people. Communication can inspire people. Communication can influence people. Communication can, get things going. So we have to realize that there's going to be, at the beginning, just feelings that are not attached to facts or any kind of back and forth. And so what we have to do is we have to be okay with showing up, kind of stepping in, being the mediator, being the facilitator, showing up and asking clear questions. We're not trying to be clever. We're not trying to be spicy. We're not trying to get in people's stuff. But we do have to call out what is going on. To be unclear is to be unkind. So you have to be willing to speak into a situation and begin to assess what is the motive here. And many times you'll feel, okay, maybe this is territorial. One of the reasons, it's kind of paradoxical, but one of the ways that we can tell if a person, a leader on the team, is being territorial is actually if they're doing a great job by themselves. A great job by themselves. You're like, well, I shouldn't even go there. I shouldn't even bring anything up because they really have nothing to complain about. They do their job. They do their stuff. But one of the things you want to look at are, who are the people around that person? Are they investing in them? Are they empowering them? Are they problem solving with them? Are they coaching up people? Do they have a ability to multiply their work in and through other people? And if you don't see that, if you don't see that mentoring going on, if you don't see that coaching going on, if you don't see that empowerment value going on, might be some territorial stuff. Okay. When people get super territorial, they want people to stay away. Stay away from my area, stay away from my stuff, stay away from this. But when people are not combative but collaborative, they welcome people. They say, hey, I have put in the work to create a lot of room for new people to come in. That's why I want to grow my capacity. That's why I want to grow my leadership capacity, because I know I can't do all of this by myself. I'm not trying to do all of this by myself. I'm not trying to be at the top of something. I'm trying to enlarge the space in the field that I operate in, so that way other people would feel like it's a well-gardened environment for them to join in as well. See, when you have this mindset that the work you do matters, you're willing to let other great people in on it. Why would you not want other great people to join you in the mission that matters? If you're serving people, if you're solving problems, if you have a tangible impact in your community, come on, we got to get more leaders on this thing. We can't have fewer leaders. We can't get territorial. We have to be excited about the work, and we have to be committed to do whatever it takes to prepare other leaders to join us in the future. So first, you're going to assess. Then we're going to align. Now, first off, you have to assess the situation. You have to know the motive. Is the motive, hey, good place? You're trying to be protective? That's good. They have a sense of ownership. Maybe it's feeling worse than it is simply because there's a lot of nonverbal communication going on. So then what happens is we show up as a mediator. We're trying to translate the situation. We're like, hey, this is the way it comes across. Is that your motive? And they say, well, not really. I was just kind of feeling, you work through it. You get to work through it. That's what leaders do. Leaders get to lead people to work together. Then after you assess the situation, we have to align the leaders. I'm going to give you the list and then we can go into it. Align the leaders, empower the team, and fulfill the mission. Align the leaders, empower the teams, and fulfill the mission. That's how you turn an inverted sense of territory, which is more self-absorbed, self-focused, kind of like it's like protective on overload, where you're feeling so threatened and attacked all the time that you get unhinged and you start lashing out on people that have no intention of trying to take something from you. So in that sense, that's the negative when things are imploding. But then we want to move to the other extreme or the other end of this. And we say, hey, no, it's not about us feeling so attacked that we have to lash out at everybody. Let's grow so much space in this area that it's so welcoming, so inviting for more people to show up and do great work here with us. That's where you create team territory. Team territory. You need to give every person on your team a clear sense of territory. You got to let them know that they're going to have space to work. They're going to have space to grow. They're going to have space to try things. They're going to have space to fail. They're going to have space to express what's important to them. They're going to have space to contribute. When people have a sense of space, they don't feel threatened. Who would have thunk? And yet we think that the resolution is more micromanaging. We think the answer is, oh, well, they're kind of getting crazy, so let's close in and take away more space from them. It's because they don't have boundaries, so they need me to be their boundaries. It's because they don't know how to take care of themselves, so now I have to take care of them. No, you don't. There are instances where that's a ministry, but more often we just need more maturity. Don't put leaders in places that require maturity if they don't have the territory, if they don't have responsibility to say, I can regulate my emotions. I can speak calmly and clearly about the things that matter. I can, you know, show up and be a contributor, and on and on. I think y'all have got that point. So we want to align leaders. Aligning leaders is so important. I created a free training, guys. I want y'all to make sure you get access to it. It's called the Executive Leadership Training, and it's all about this second point called align. So if you're interested in getting that free training, the Executive Leadership Training, it's all about how to align leaders with role clarity. You have to give your leaders, in particular, role clarity. Role clarity is a gift. Don't think of it as like this huge sack of rocks that you're just putting on their back and now they have to climb the mountain with you with that huge sack of rocks on. No. What you're doing is you're putting a backpack full of gear and you're saying, hey, you can pioneer as far and as fast as you can now. We're going to equip you. We're going to outfit you. We're going to help you do well in the terrain that you're taking on next. You have a heart for media. You have a heart for HR. You have a heart for, accounting. You have a heart for technology. You have a heart for education. You have a heart for this stuff, right? People want to go further. They're not equipped yet. What would it be? What would it be like if the executive leaders were known as the chief equipping officers, right? Where we actually equip leaders to go be awesome. And we're not feeling threatened when they want to be awesome. Like we shouldn't be intimidated when other people are growing. That's a good thing. All right. So align the leaders. One of the things we try to do is we want to get on a relational level first. Start on a relational level first. Realize that this is another awesome person who has committed and sacrificed their time and energy to serve the work that you share together. And, a lot of people, they just want to help. They want to help people. They want to further a good cause. So celebrate that and say, hey, thank you so much for, having coffee with me. I want to know what's important to you. I want to know what you think you're good at. I want to know how you would handle these different scenarios. I want to know what your experiences have been. I want to know where have you felt threatened. I want to know where, and you just listen to where people are and begin to understand, do they have a clear sense of territory yet? Do they know how to take responsibility for their own thought life, for their own scheduling, for their own projects, for the way they show up as a leader? Or do they have some areas good, but they have breaches in the wall somewhere else? And then you come as an encourager. That's what leaders do. We build up the team. So you want to start with leaders because everything starts at that leadership level. It's just, you have to focus on load-bearing leaders first. If you have load-bearing leaders, they hold up the infrastructure of the team. They hold up the infrastructure of the team culture. And yet sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes as leaders, we want to take the path of least resistance. And as leaders, we know that there's something kind of in our team culture that could get better, that could improve. But for whatever reason, we take the path of least resistance and we go to the little stuff. And we even go to other people who have been on the team less time than the others. And somehow we think, well, I just started noticing the issue when it happened. When this person came around, it's like, well, probably, I know you're trying to be a good detective, but you don't start there. You start with leaders. You go to the leaders. You say, hey, you see things I don't see. You've experienced things that maybe I haven't run across yet. What's going on? Tell me in your opinion, how's this? Because if you can't make it work with the few leaders, right, that are at the executive level, it'd be a lot harder to rally a lot more people later on. So you want to create that compound encouragement, that compound alignment, and you want to start with the few leaders, and you got to do the work. Like you really have to roll up your sleeves. And it comes down to, I'm good with me. I can take care of myself. I take responsibility for myself. I'm not threatened by other leaders. I welcome other leaders. And because of that, I can now work well with other leaders. But if you've struck out at that first place, you're not even going to advance to the next level. I hope this is helping somebody. So don't take the path of least resistance. Don't start asserting your position because you clearly have a bigger position than someone on a more entry level or someone on the front lines, so to speak. And you're like, well, yeah, that's the issue. We got to go deal with that. It's like, no. Go to the executive level. If we're going to have some hard conversations, let's start with the executive leaders. Let's talk with them. Let's help them out. Let's encourage them. And once you build alignment with the team, build alignment with your leaders. Build alignment with the leaders. So you assess the situation, you align the leaders, you empower the team. When you have leaders that are in alignment, meaning shared values, I'm not even sure they have shared vision. And that's okay, because some of us are looking north and some of us are looking south and some of us are looking east and some of us are looking west. We're going to have different vision about where we're going. It's like, I'm glad I don't need a vision for some areas. I'm not good at them. I don't want to do them, but I have a vision for this, right? I have a vision to get behind executive leaders and encourage them and equip them and let them know that they don't have to quit and they don't have to fall apart and they don't have to get, so discouraged that they tap out, but they can actually grow up and wise up and get retooled for a whole new phase of leadership, and that we need you and that what you're doing matters. And so we have to keep putting in the future work now. You align the leaders with clear communication. You got to talk to them. You got to get right there. I mean, literally just a little coffee table apart. You can see each other eye to eye and you can talk and you can say, hey, either it's going to work or it's not going to work. And that's okay. Once you get that kind of alignment, it is contagious. Once you get that kind of alignment where leaders are moving in agreement, when you get people in agreement, powerful things can happen. It's so funny. We can rally around things we're against, but somehow it's harder to rally around things we're for. It's like, because it's like, oh, if there's an enemy, because we get excited about having an enemy. So it's like, well, once we take out the enemy, we were on the same side as enemies, but now there's no enemy because we took them out because our agreement was powerful. Now there's no enemy, and I need an enemy to have agreement. So now you're the enemy. It's like, whoa, no, wait. Remember, I was helping you. I'm not the enemy. So then what do? We have to change the conversation. We have to say, no, it's not about us being so combative. It's about us being collaborative. What are we for? What is the hopeful future? And it's so easy to see what's not working. It takes leadership to see what can happen next. It takes leadership. It takes vision. It takes pioneering to have a clear, hopeful future that inspires leaders on the executive level, because they've seen everything. They've gone through everything. They know the ups and downs. They've gone through the horror stories. They know the nightmares, and yet they need to learn how to dream again. We have to help the leaders on our team dream again, because they have gotten so entrenched going through motions, feeling like that's the only way they're going to survive. Remember, territorial is a survival mechanism. So we have to get out of survival mode and we have to get back into dreaming mode. We have to dream again what's possible for our life. We have to dream again what's possible for our family. We have to dream again about what's possible for our future. We have to dream again about what's possible with the gifts and the talents and the experiences that we've earned and learned over time. And when you show up not threatened to a person who is very threatened, you become a resource in their life. You become someone who can change the game, not because you're trying to change them, but because you freely open up your space and say, hey, you're welcome. Some people just need space to vent. I want to show you this story. This has been really impactful for me. Let me know how you're feeling. We're landing the plane in the next few minutes, but let me know how you're feeling. Let me know if you have a targeted question that could help your team today. Put it in the comments. I'd be happy to help. So what am I saying? Overall, I want you to walk away with this in mind. Take ownership for your own space and the way you show up, because that's the difference between being threatened and ultra territorial and actually helping your team navigate a very tense situation. Let me try to show it to you a bit visually. There's this story in the Bible again about two relatives, actually. Abram, who became Father Abraham, right? And Lot. And it says, let me just go to it real quick. I'm going to pick up in Genesis, I think it's 13. Now, what we're going to see is, and this is my words, I'm trying to add a little helpful leadership commentary here. Lot kind of had an unhealthy attachment. He liked having a little too much help, and so now he doesn't. He gets in a fight. His team gets in a fight with Abram's team. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you're a team leader. Maybe you are a executive leader. Maybe you have to referee disagreements. Maybe you have to help people on your team with their territory. Chapter 13, Genesis 13:1. So Abram left Egypt and traveled north, and he became very rich. Livestock, silver, gold. And I'm trying to get to the part. Verse 5, Lot, who was traveling with Abram, also became very wealthy with flocks of sheep, goat, herds of cattle, and many tents. But the land, talking territory, the land could not support both Abram and Lot with all their flocks and herds living so close together. So disputes broke out between the herdsmen. What if the friction, what if the challenges, what if the pain point are actually growing pains of a good process? What if we're supposed to mature? What if we're supposed to take more and more responsibility for our lives and not be codependent in trying or dysfunctional relationships? What if we're supposed to become more competent and confident in what we are called to do, and then we become interdependent with other people? What if we start to serve instead of waiting around to be served? So they're fighting because they're sharing the same territory. They had this bright idea. Abraham, he's the guy. He had the bright idea and he said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Let's separate. Let's add a little bit of space. Let's get some space in here. You have your territory. I have my territory. That's what role clarity does. When you have a role clarity conversation, you don't have to have mortal enemies anymore. You can say, hey, I'm here for you. You're here for me. When you get in a jam, literally, Abraham in the next chapter, he's going to bust Lot out of a jam. He's going to say, hey, I'm going to take care of you. I'll fight for you when you need it. When you're really attacked, when you're really threatened, I'll be there for you. But what I'm not going to do is pretend that we both deserve to share this very small and close space. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep expanding what's possible. I want you to do the same thing too. So what he did is he said, hey, you go find wherever you're going to live. You pick. I don't care. You choose. And he gave that agency away. He gave that empowerment away. He gave that person space. You know, you may have a tough conversation with somebody and they say, hey, I think I need to leave. It'd be far better to let one of your leaders leave than stay in strife. Strife is eating you up from the inside out. Strife is tearing apart everything you're trying to accomplish. You put up 3 or 4 bricks, they tear down 3 or 4 bricks with you, right behind you. I mean, strife is not going to help your organizational culture. You really don't need people like you think you do. Not if it's not at that cost. But when you can take responsibility for you, for your culture, for the way you show up, other people start to follow that example. So here on the left side, you see Lot. He's still figuring out his own stuff. He's still getting taken over because he's looking for another support system in Sodom. He's like, man, Sodom's a nice place. They got amenities. Be an easy, cushy life for me. Let me go over there. You know, he's looking for another support system. Abraham, he's like, I don't need a support system in that sense, in that negative sense, because I'm depending on God. I'm depending on the Lord. He's going to help me grow. And the Lord showed him right there in the next verse. He says, look up, look north, look south, look east, look west. Right after Abram was willing to take responsibility for his own territory and not get pulled into this tense territorial dispute, the Lord said, you got so much more territory than you could ever imagine. Because you were not willing to lose your peace over a small space over here, over a small thing over here. Guys, don't lose your peace. Don't lose your focus. Don't lose your future over such a small area. I don't know what it is, but don't lose your joy over that. Don't lose your focus over that. Freely give it away if you have to and say, you know what? I wish I could have done something great here. I wish I could have done more here, but you know what? I'm going to keep trusting the Lord. And you know what? You can grow. You can be a blessing. You can be a strength to other people and not a burden. You can make a difference in other people's lives. Why? Because you're learning how to grow. So there's Abram on the right, man. He's masterminding. He's like, hey, the Lord showed me this bigger, enlarged vision. Why? Because he was willing to steward his heart. He was not going to get pulled into an unsanctioned dispute. He's like, it's not worth it. It's literally not worth it. And instead, he began to dream bigger. He had the right motive, and now he was ready to grow even more. So this is what happens to us many times, right? I talk about this in my course, Pioneer of the Year, but you've got your own life. And the point is that you need to be growing in every direction of your life, not just the narrow, visible view of success in your life. So many times we put so much of our identity into our work because that's the thing that other people see. That's what feels rewarded or recognized with, our compensation or validation. And so we focus a lot of our time in the area where we feel successful. But a pioneering leader knows that you're not going to feel successful or validated just by the stuff you do or by the stuff other people see, because most of the stuff you're doing is going to be future focused anyway. So they're not even going to see what you're doing. They don't know what you're doing when no one's around. They don't know how much you're learning. They don't know how you're putting in the reps. They don't know how you're humbling yourself to a process of mastery. But in time, later on, they'll see what you've been doing. They'll see what you've been putting your focus on. And so that's why we have to, it's kind of counterintuitive, but you do have to grow your capacity so that way you can steward your enlarged territory. So what we do is if we have a small sense of territory, let me try to zoom in so you can see this. If we have a small sense of territory, we try to do goals and projects that are outside of our capacity. Instead of growing our capacity, we just try to do the one or the two things that feel visible. I don't know why, but leaders, they really get stuck in this trap where they think to be visible is to be valuable. It's not true. I mean, look at gold. Gold is like very valuable, not initially visible, right? Many times the resources that are very, very valuable, let me say this so you can see it. Many times leaders get hung up with the idea that to be visible is to be valuable, but that's not true. I mean, think of gold, because gold is not readily visible, but the people who can find the gold become very, very valuable. So for leaders, we have to learn how to steward our lives, even the parts that are not readily visible to other people. And we have to create value in our life. We have to steward and cultivate that value in our life. So what people try to do is they get fragmented, they get compartmentalized. They say, oh, I'm going to do 2 or 3 things in my work. I'm going to do 2 or 3 things for my family. I'm going to do 2 or 3 things. I'm just going to try to accomplish these goals, not realizing that it's meant to do something in my soul. It's meant to enlarge my capacity. It's meant to enlarge my sense of territory. When I take ownership of the process, I'm willing to take the risks and the rewards because I have counted the costs. I'm willing to take responsibility for what I say. I'm willing to take responsibility for what I think. I'm willing to take, and if I feel unfulfilled, I need to deal with that. I need to say, okay, why? What am I unwilling to accept? What am I unwilling to believe about myself? What am I unwilling to believe about the work that I do? Many times we're just holding on to attachments like Lot was. And when one attachment falls apart, we go look for another kind of umbilical cord to attach ourselves to. When the whole point is that you're on a leadership journey to grow your capacity so you can take more territory. So when you do take more territory, you don't get burned out, but you actually get built up. All right, so that's the Prepared Leader Challenge. Make sure that you find it. I really, really appreciate you guys being on the journey. I've just run out of time for now. We'll be back next Friday at 11:30. Let me know in the comments what was resonating with you, how I can help you in your executive context. I wanted to just give you a little bit of language to let you know that the things you're feeling, the things you're facing, you don't have to feel gaslit. People don't have to gaslight you and say, well, it's this, it's that, it's the other thing. This misdirection has to stop today. You don't have to be confused about your team culture. It really comes down to people, relationships, the way we show up as a team. And when every leader is growing personally, the team's influence can grow as well. Let me finish up with this scripture of encouragement. It's 2 Corinthians 10:13. Paul says, we, however, will not boast beyond our measure, but within the limits of the sphere which God has appointed us, a sphere which especially includes you. So know your sphere. Know your boundary lines. Know what your focus is on, and do the best you can with that. And when you're doing that, you don't have to feel threatened by anybody else. And if other people feel threatened or they start acting territorial in a combative sense, now you have the tools. You're not going to get pulled into the drama. You're not going to get flustered. You have a clear path. You have to assess the situation to know the motive. Then you have to align the leaders first before you try to get a certain goal or objective accomplished. And then you empower the team with a sense of confidence and community. And then you can fulfill the mission. And you want to be in an organization where the leaders are personally fulfilled and the mission is being fulfilled by them. So stay awesome, guys. I will see you next week, Future Fridays, right here on Prepare to Go There. Stay awesome. And remember, you're going places, so prepare to go there.